conversation. So I'm going to go over the 3 things and the 3 reasons why I'm passionate about that. And then I also have at the end, it's like a 1-minute video. I'm not sure if you got it, Maria, that I wanted to share with the group as well. But the 3 things are to generate a spirit of mutual curiosity, respect, and appreciation among those of the political issue and perspectives. That's really important to me because I know a lot of times, sometimes voices aren't always able to be heard. And I think it was just really important that even when we did like Advocacy Day, it was good for some people to hear from those people in the community. So one of the things we talked about was making sure that we reach each different community member. The other thing was to bring forth the trust and courage to generously express and actively appreciate one another's authentic revealing of their heartfelt values. I think that's very important because when you do that, that's when you let somebody know, like, okay, this is what I'm passionate about and this is why this means something to me. And then when somebody else hears that perspective, especially amongst a diverse group, it really helps bring an outcome. And then the other one was to listen openly and open up perspectives for peers to give their input. I think it's really good and important for peers to have a voice because then that way they can label their experience, what they went through and how they felt during those times of dealing with that issue, and things like that. And then I did a short video and it was just really talking about how I was dealing with my mental health and things that I was doing during the COVID crisis. And I think that would just be a good takeaway to help other people know what to do during hard times like this.
Okay. So Maria, do you have the video there?
Did you send it to me through where, Jonathan? Through?
You're on mute, Jonathan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I sent it to you from my On Our Own email to I copy and pasted info at.
Can you, Jonathan? Can you share it right now? You have the share screen on your computer.
Oh,
yeah.
How about
I
you
gave
just
you permission.
play it on your screen, Jonathan?
How
Take
do
your
I
time. We have time.
Share down at the bottom in green. It has share screen.
Share screen. Yeah.
Wait, let me open it and then let me hit that.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, select it and then do share screen.
You gotta have that screen only. Make sure, because if you don't, it's gonna show your whole. Oh, there you are. Perfect.
All right, there he is. Okay, let's get the sound. Is there a sound that we can get?
No sound?
No, no sound.
No sound.
It looks like it's on the far right. Looks like it should be giving sound. Does anyone else hear the sound?
I don't know how to
make the sound work.
I don't know how to. Yeah, I don't know how to make the sound work. I'm sorry.
Really? Oh God.
The other option is for you.
I'm looking at the options that I have. Hold on a second.
But also, Maria, what if you downloaded it from your
from my end? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go check.
I'm gonna pause.
making sure the COVID crisis to maintain my mental wellness. One of the things I've been doing is writing. I use every day to write down positive words and things that I'm thankful for, just to remember what's going on. But listening to music and making music is one of the things that I definitely make sure I do every day. And then another thing is making sure I make outside contact. So that's FaceTiming family, friends, having Zoom conferences, calls, or anything like that, just to make sure that they're okay, and then also let them know what I have going on. Make sure that you take care of your mental health and mental wellness during this time too. Thanks.
Very good.
For too long, but I'm looking forward to learning more and creating better experiences for as many people as I can. Coming from a background of numerous hospitalizations, more than I care to admit, I've had my fair share of community discussions that went well and ones that went horribly wrong, leaving everyone just in a worse place than when the discussion started. I like to think I know pretty much what a healthy discussion should look like and what it shouldn't, so I'm all for creating a safer space to talk about anything and everything as long as it's productive. So I'm going to go through 3 objectives of a good community discussion and what it takes to achieve them. The first one is to be open and curious about all perspectives and see what can be learned from listening to one another, rather than debating differing opinions on any topic or issue. It's always helpful to have new ways of thinking from other people, especially if they're unbiased people. It's always a great thing to bounce ideas and theories off of each other. The way to make that happen would be to facilitate a healthy conversation, usually by having a mediator to direct conversation in productive manners rather than any kind of circular thinking or just going back and forth between 2 people. And it's also very important to keep in mind that all opinions are valid and should be considered, but the discussion should only move forward in a way that is beneficial to everyone who's taking part. The second objective is to inspire a sense of openness, willingness, and even partnership for further connection or cooperating in some way. During the discussion, facilitators should make people in the discussion feel comfortable and safe. Everyone should feel like they matter and the issues they're posing are valid and make sense, not just to them, but overall, just in general. Follow-up calls should be made to check in on how everyone's doing post-discussion. And then in our last meeting, Jonathan mentioned a survey system, which should be put into place to see what's working during a discussion and what isn't, and what we can build on and what can be taken away, just how the discussion and the facilitator can edit things. The third objective is to evoke a direct experience of an authentic, meaningful, and rewarding conversation. The facilitator should make sure that everyone knows any group rules and potential triggers, things to avoid, things like that. They should also spend time with each participant on their whatever issues they bring up and create a broader discussion that the entire group can benefit from. Lastly, keeping everyone engaged by frequently asking for opinions and questions is a great way to make sure that everybody participates and gets the big idea of what the discussion is about. So those are my 3 objectives and ways to make them happen.
Yeah. Very nice.
Very good. You all want to lead us in a discussion of these points? Questions that people might have?
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any questions?
I like the idea of using video because that's going to attract a large group of people. I like that idea, and I like how you explain the conversation and to listen. So that was real good. I liked both of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. You all are facilitating the conversation. You want to
Oh, I was gonna say another thing that I was just thinking about that Dan was saying was just to even record these type of conversations, so that maybe we could do something like the virtual conversation. Some of it gets recorded, so that way people can look back at it. That was just another idea that was coming to mind during this conversation.
I could see this using as a training piece that you could put on, and we could show at the centers to engage people who come to the center. So I could see this far reaching.
Yeah.
But I'm a visionary, so.
No, that's good, because another thing I think would be good is if we just got other peers or other people just to kind of do the same thing and create those videos and start spreading their voice. Because I think the important thing is about being visible and being heard and being aware about how some of these topics feel to people. And I think those videos will definitely help make that happen.
It
We'll
certainly
respond
would
more to
attract
videos.
younger members.
Yes. Yeah, the other thing is like always being able to, I call it riding the wave. So when things are changing, you need to be able to change too. You know what I'm saying? Like when things are adapting, if I'm still on MySpace and everybody's like, no, it's Instagram now, I'm like, oh, well, you know, you kind of got to stay current. So yeah, I think that's another thing too.
Looking at different mediums, different outlets.
I see, Jonathan. So can you do this? I see like a community building. You're building community. So you can do both online, you know, like this virtual training and in-person gatherings, in-person community.
Yeah, I think that's I think it could work both ways. I think sometimes it might be easier to do certain things in person, but I think this is something that you could definitely teach somebody to do virtually as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that both. I truly like at the beginning, you put the human side within you. This is who I am, and this is what I'm proposing. Do you see how powerful that was? And this goes for everybody. People wanted to listen more of you. So I love the way you presented yourself. I also like how Huck went back to Jonathan information. You showed that you were prepared. That's very important. And you know, that's you show a sign that you mean it. You mean what you said. And that comes across. These people are determined to make a change in our communities. Very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the informality of the video. It was just like a conversation itself. So you were, you know, I think it was that made it less intimidating. It's like, hey, this is what I've been thinking about. I think sometimes, unfortunately, with videos, people are like overly, I don't know, scripted or overly concerned, you know, about how's this appear, and that, I think that can put people off. But you're setting a tone of an invitation. It was very inviting. It's like, hey, I'd like to get into this conversation. Hey, this guy is accessible. He's not like I don't know, trying to be a performer. Which,
and I think that's another point that Huck was making very valid too. Just talking about, you know what I'm saying, like the person who's there is making sure that everybody's point and perspectives are valid.
Yeah.
And I also want to, I think Huck did very well too, because I know this is like one of his first times like presenting, but I think he did a great job as well, Huck.
Yeah, Huck. And I also like the innovative ideas it shows. You know, nowadays people are looking for new ideas, new innovation, something different, because we know people, especially systems, have been doing whatever they're doing for years and years and years. So you bring that innovation component to and the diversity too, the two of you together. That's wonderful. Yeah, very powerful.
There are other comments that people have? Other responses? Other, this How would this go over in different centers? What different settings?
I think Jonathan's video would be inspiring to some of the folks that participate at our program in Annapolis. They are very, many of them are very musical and like making their own music and have shared some of it with the other members of the center. So I think maybe that would be inspirational because it's short and upbeat and positive.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the message is really important as well as the messenger. Yeah. And the music was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd agree, Huck, you did a nice job in presenting yourself as well as elaborating on the points. Yeah.
Yeah.
The theme is interesting. The theme is how to engage and how to have your voice heard, how to be listened to. And I think that's a message that everyone is curious about right now. And curiosity. You both talked
Yeah.
curiosity, which I think is a good way to find out other people's point of view. I'm curious.
Absolutely.
Any other feedback for Huck and for Jonathan? Does this inspire the rest of you in your presentations?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, it was probably, what if we take a break, come back, and have the next group present? How about that?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good job. We'll get
Good
back
job, Pat and Jonathan.
like a little after 2. It's what's it right now? 1:50. Yeah, just 2:05. Something like that. A little after 2. We'll get back together. Okay.
Okay.
Maria, you want to chat?
There you go.
Okay, well, video on. Are you just doing audio recording?
Well, it's audio and video, but this will be just audio. That's okay.
Oh, all right.
You want to begin?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Patrice O'Toole, and I run a program, peer support program, that assists people living with mental illness and or addictions.
Patrice, hold
But
on a
not
second.
only
Patrice, hold on a second. Can we all mute ourselves?
is Patrice O'Toole, and I run a peer support program in Annapolis, Maryland, that assists people living with mental illness and or addiction. But not only do I work in that field, but I am a member of this large community that is often overlooked and stigmatized. I have chronic depression and have experienced episodes of debilitating depression since I was a child. And this has often led me to isolate myself from family, friends, and social activities. And this is a common issue for people challenged by mental health and addiction issues. And actually, 1 out of 5 Americans experience in their lifetime an episode of mental illness that can be triggered by anxiety, death of a loved one, and or a job loss, to name a few. Sometimes people cope with these feelings in unhealthy ways by drinking or using drugs. And a lot of folks cannot get treatment. It's not as easy to access it as we in this community would like to see. And that exacerbates the problem and then can ultimately lead to serious health issues. But now with COVID-19, millions of Americans have been forced to stop social activities and isolate themselves to stay well and to curtail the spread of this virus. So now my long overlooked community is huge because millions of Americans are experiencing depression and anxiety due to isolating and being cooped up with almost no social interactions. But luckily in our modern day and age, people do have computers, smartphones, and access to the internet. But lots of people living on fixed incomes and those individuals receiving treatment at residential rehab homes and in other communities, people do not have access to the internet, they do not own computers, and they do not own smartphones. And so they can't even access virtual support groups. They can't interact socially on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And this is really a big issue. And it has been a big issue before COVID-19. And now it's just a much bigger problem because the programs like mine that try to help people are very limited to how they can meet with them, maybe one-on-one occasionally or by phone one-on-one. But we can't operate virtual support groups or offer them because they don't have computers or even internet access. And I consider this a bit of a crisis. I mean, it's being considered a crisis for the overall community that's now experiencing anxiety and depression, maybe for the first time in their lives. And then our community, which has been dealing with this for a long time, folks are still trying to get on their feet, and this has set them back quite a bit. So I think the next part of this actually is this area where, I'm sorry, I finished up, but I think that Linda will be doing the vision and resolution.
Very good. Very good. So you were stating the issue and the problem. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Linda, you want to come up with the resolution?
Okay, I'm Linda Morrell, and I do programming for Honor on the St. Mary's. And I grew up in a violent household, and I never quite felt like I was part of my community. I had a negative upbringing. and which continued into my high school with a teacher telling me I could never get to college. This made me angry, and I made sure I did get to college, and I obtained a degree. However, my depression led me to addictions, and I started my recovery in 2000 with mental health and addictions. Also in 2002 was the first time I entered into the digital age, with someone placing a computer on my desk, and I said, what do you want me to do with this? But I was able to question and learn and proceed, and I feel part of a community, and I found my family at Honor Ona St. Mary's. I am part of the group, and Patrice gave the first part. And the vision is to bridge the gap from inequalities of the digital age, connecting us with our community at large, empowering members of Honor Ona Maryland and affiliates to find their voices by connecting to the internet. This will revitalize individuals' activities of daily living and to avoid depression and isolation. And a resolution, our team has decided, we made a firm commitment and dedicated ourselves to the goal of narrowing the gap of the digital world for low-income individuals. Our first meeting will be July 31st, and we'll meet monthly either via email or conference calling. At that time, we will finalize 4 groups that we will email or contact by mail. We'll look into networking with the Literacy Society and doors for training assistance for people who may need additional help, and pursue the library. We can take a group to the library, and if they would just dedicate 1 hour, even if it's a month, for a group training, that the individuals could participate. But I think it's important to go to the library to experience that. And then in 1 year, we hope to see movement and narrowing that gap of the inequalities and connecting others. So I can vision this to opening up not even a world, but they'll feel extremely part of. They can participate in grocery shopping, connecting to YouTube, very many avenues. And I can see our center using Zoom and other avenues for training for our members, and all our other affiliates too. And let's see. Oh, and our team feels that this will reduce isolation and depression, so our members can feel part of a community at last. Thank you.
I'd like to just clarify one thing, that we had picked July 31st as a day to have some results done. So I thought we'd be working on it sooner, like after the 4th of July, we'd all be doing some of the legwork. But I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Individually, we would, all our information that each of us have gathered, we were going to look through it all and then meet up and make our decision. Is that correct, Patrice?
Yes, thank you.
So there'll be some legwork done during during July, and then July 31st, you'll review the work that you've done. And there'll be, I think this is great, by the way. You've got a nice two-part presentation, the first part of the issues and the gaps and what needs to be addressed. And then part two, Linda brings up the ways to address it, how to bridge this gap. Not sure I got them all. There's networking for literacy. You mentioned that. Is that a particular group that you that exists, or what is that?
The Literacy Society.
Yeah, what is that?
They come in sometimes if someone needs help. Because we have individuals who can't read or have traumatic brain injury, who need assistance or equipment. And that's where Doris comes into.
Doris? Who's that?
Doors.
Doors? What is
Department of Rehabilitation Services.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good. And which points out that the digital divide also includes literacy, which is that's really good to point out. It's not enough just to make equipment available, but people have to have the capacity to process, read. And you mentioned libraries. I wonder, you know, until you can go there in person to libraries, is there something online that the libraries could offer? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The library's online, and you can have digital movies and books.
Yeah.
Right on the computer. So.
I wanted to add one more thing that I thought of that I would add to my intro, and that would be possibly to talk about the racial disparities and inequalities in also gaining access to internet and technology.
Yeah.
Well, I like, you know, the way you presented, you know, you put the human, your human side immediately, who you are. And I also like for you that you emphasize who you are, you know, your education and your position, Patrice. So together, it was so wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like, the racial disparities, Patrice, it has to be, especially right now, it's very important to add. And also emphasize, remember, you know, people are worried about money. When you're talking, people are thinking, how much is gonna cost us? How much are we gonna, what are you asking for? So just remember that to put this is in the long term, is gonna save you money. Because people are gonna, you know, that's very important to address that. Because that's what they want to hear. And then, you know, you can say the reasons why, because when people start talking and communicating, it's healing among the group and healing about everybody. And then in the long run, they're not gonna go to the hospital, they're gonna come to us.
Right,
You know,
and then that's a good point, which I also could add, which is that healing happens in relationships.
Exactly.
So that would be a good thing to add as well.
Yeah, good ideas. Excellent.
How about others? Input from others in the group here. What are your impressions or questions?
I also like the fact that they started out introducing themselves and sharing their story. I thought that basically helps get right to the point, and that, you know, it's just more personal, and I think people really, you know, that gets attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I like what I heard. Definitely just how it came in. It was just very open and honest, and I was just really tuned in listening about this stuff at the library. I think that would be really good if it was just something weekly, even for an hour, just to have that going on. Because what can also happen is it could be learning that's passed off. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody's learning how to set up an email, they could also teach somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And then that can go on to continue the learning cycle. So that just sounded like a great idea. It just sounds very awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Linda, when you started talking about your like personal experiences and your childhood and through high school, I got like really invested. Like I wanted to listen to what you had to say. So I thought that was really great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting also that you said within 1 year you want the gap to close.
Yeah.
So,
Idea of an outcome is important so that you have something to measure. How will you know when the gap is decreased? What signs will there be?
when we get some equipment and money.
Mm-hmm.
So out of the 4, we certainly aren't going to get 4, but hopefully we get a bite for one of the 4. And if we don't, then we still have our research to fall back on to apply to others.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should get disillusioned because you don't get money right away.
Right.
I agree with that. You say the 4. Which were the 4?
For computers or money to purchase computers, as example, TechSoup, they have rehab computers and they're fairly cheap. I also would like, because a person has to connect to the internet, that we need to have a low income. And you just go for the, I always say, go for the ego. And the computer company, you need to touch that this is a great PR for them. Not that we have competition in cable company in the county, but I think I'm really encouraged. So.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I liked is that you weren't trying to solve all the problems, in one proposal. You were setting up a process, which is very important.
Yeah.
How you would, have a meeting and who you'd reach out to between now and the meeting. And I am curious, there are a lot of on our owns. Have you thought about ways of engaging other on our owns in this?
Well, some of the grants, like Amazon, the minimum is 50,000. So somehow we would need to get together with On Our Own in Maryland and to make some sort of parameters on how it would be distributed to the centers.
Yeah.
And get the proper training.
So you would try to get a representative from On Our Own in Maryland to be part of your committee, probably.
I a few years ago worked with an intern from On Our Own in Maryland who helped draft a proposal for a grant that we did get here at our center to present a series of workshops on mindfulness. We got $5,000 to do that series of workshops from the Medicine and Spirituality Foundation. I don't know if I'm remembering the name correctly, but they were part of Johns Hopkins University.
They were an intern through On Our Own?
No, I wasn't, but they had an intern who was looking for a project, and I asked them if they wanted to help us, and they did. possible that the current intern might want to help us as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, sounds good.
a good idea. Yeah. So you contact that person and have them show up for your meeting.
Right.
And you mentioned Zoom. Zoom for members. Do somebody have their own Zoom? Does one of your groups have?
The center has a Zoom account because we didn't exactly jump in right away, but it was a way to connect and keep some sort of groups going. And then I can see this expanding because as our members get older, it's not easy for them to get into the centers. So with the technology, they can still be part of the community. And so I can see Zoom and I don't know, I know Google has something, there's different ones, but I can see this, I would like to continue with technology, and we can also provide training to other people using the computers, so.
As well as bringing more presentations into our center, although they like to have them done in person. I don't have the money to fly somebody across the country, so if I can do that, which I'm sure that will be allowable, especially during this next year with COVID, still being able to have in-house presentations through one of the platforms, one of the online platforms.
It does open up a lot of areas that before were kind of not possible.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
And one of Linda's meetings, I know the first one had 26 people. We can't do that during COVID, so she'll be able to split that group up. Those that want to meet in person and those that just want to attend online, you know, and she can actually integrate that group as opposed to having 2 different meetings, depending on what they decide.
What do you mean the meeting? What meeting at 26?
Support groups. Say AA or Smart Recovery, or even, you know, depression or grief groups. You know, we could have support groups online and in person by, you know, we have a screen, we've got the equipment to project onto the wall, the Zoom, and if folks would like to join that group and can't get in, remember we're in a rural area, a lot of poverty, buses, can't get a bus to town after 6 o'clock. And you can't get out after 6 o'clock. So, and not everybody has rides. I mean, we just, our folks don't have money. They live on their SSI check. Some have, you know, extra jobs, and then some of our folks don't have even that. So.
It's interesting to think this addresses problems that were there before COVID also.
I can see this giving people hope because so many individuals just don't have the motivation because the system seems to take away their individuality. So I can see, you know, we can sit and watch Jonathan's videos and
absolutely.
different things, or if Huck's doing something, we can tap into that.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting synergy here, collaboration that's developing between these different activities. Yeah, that's cool. Any other comments, or Tony, what do you think of all this? Is of help to your centers?
It's been very interesting. I like the way that people are putting in their personal stories. It does attract you and make you engaged as to hearing more. So I think it's great, and I am getting a lot of ideas. Where we went last, girl.
Yeah.
What kind of ideas?
Well, I'm going to incorporate a little bit of me and who I am. Originally, I wasn't going to do that because our presentation is a little different from everyone else's.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be talking about, the MAPB C. We're going to talk about that and how we can level the playing field, so to speak, in reference to equalizing the platform.
But the personal is still helpful. I think the value of the personal is that it gets people's attention. You know, this is something that you're invested in. You're doing it because of your life. Not like just a job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it taps into the passion that people have. That's what you want to do. Remember how you made them feel.
Right.
Yeah. And I think honestly, people, I mean, they'll remember actually the words. I mean, I would amplify Maya Angelou's by saying, if you only use words, people won't remember what you say. But if you reach their hearts, you'll remember the feeling and you'll probably remember the words. Because you'll have a motivation, you'll have something, an association. You'll go, oh, I remember Linda she was talking, what was she talking about? Oh, digital, yeah. Well, I remember Linda and I remember her story and actually she was talking about, the importance of the digital. It's almost like I think people start with the person and a little bit about they can relate.
And then also, if you can just put it like how do you call that, letter of interest, and yeah, exactly the same. Introduce yourself, who you are, and what you went through, and then the need, and then the solution. But in a short, condensed letter, so you can distribute it to foundations, to many Apple computers, Zoom company. You know what I mean? Make it available. And
Yeah, that's a great idea. And if we keep it short,
yeah,
we could probably easily adapt it to some of the online applications that some of the companies prefer.
yes. And send it to us. We have a large database that we can send to people.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, we're willing to look it over to help with editing if you like.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's helpful.
So some of this format, I think you would find letter of intent.
Yeah.
If it's a foundation you're looking at, like a local foundation, some Maryland-based foundation, you can, you can use a similar format. Here's who we are, this is what we do, this is what the problem is, and these are proposals that we have, and we would like, $20,000, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe we take another break and what do you think? Come back and hear from Caroline and Tony. And
Joe.
Joe. Mm-hmm. Caroline, Tony, and Joe. Remember, be personal. See, the people that go third, they have the benefit of hearing all the feedback. I think also Jonathan might have another video. Is that right, Jonathan?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you might. Yeah. Well, we may have a little time at the end. You can play another video.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, why don't we stop back at about quarter of.
Okay.
And I'm a peer member as well executive director of Honor of St. Mary's. I'm a person with a co-occurring background. This means that I have lived experience with addictions and mental health conditions or emotional injury. I like that better than mental illness. Due to trauma starting at a young age and throughout my life. I also lost my daughter to suicide 6 years ago, who had emotional as well as physical injury. So as the director of On Our Own, my staff and members all support each other. And most of our members have what is called, as I like to use the air quotes, serious diagnosis. And in order to work at On Our Own St. Mary's, as well as the other 23 affiliates in the state of Maryland, you have to have the lived experience in order to be a staff member. And your board has to be 51% people with lived experience. In many meetings and get-togethers with other directors throughout the state of Maryland, basically since the integration, which started, I guess, about maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe longer. There's been a lot of discussion, just observations of different trainings and events that seem to be geared mostly towards the addictions, which is a good thing that this is, because we have such an epidemic right now. But sometimes we feel like the mental health side has been left behind. And not having been a person that joined any programs to overcome my addiction, I never went to an AA or support group. I didn't go to rehab. My white privilege allowed me to do what I knew I needed to do to, and I know white privilege can be off-putting for some people, especially in my county. It allowed me to do what I needed to do to recover. So we feel that as a lot of times a director will leave a center who has a mental health background and will be replaced by someone more heavy on the addiction side, which is all fine and good because we do want to integrate our centers. But just the fact that in my county, we are considered the mental health wellness recovery center, and there's a substance use mental health recovery and wellness center. The fact that they send folks to us that, for whatever reason, indicates to me that they really aren't sure what to do with the person or how to support them, or maybe the person may not feel that that is the right place for them, so they direct them to us, rather than them having the experience or maybe the equipment to support somebody who may be hearing voices, having unusual thoughts that some people can't sit and listen to, or maybe inexperienced with that. So a lot of us feel that there's more emphasis being put on the addiction side through the certification, although there are many trainings, and this is where I'm going to try, Maria, to see if I can do this right. Now, what button do I? Oh, I see it. I don't know if this is going to work.
Make sure, yeah, you have it on your screen on your desktop. Yeah.
Okay, now that's not working. Okay, I couldn't get. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to show you what some of the trainings for certification are. This is just going to be brief, but I wanted to give you an idea. And if you'll notice that some have in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, third, fourth, and fifth column, those are the CEU, the areas, the domains where you need to acquire CEUs. And a lot of trainings may just have one or two. As you can see, if you're familiar with Magellan, which is a provider, there's a lot of providers on here. Mosaic, NAMI, it's not so much of a provider, but more towards family, or at least it was. But you can see the different trainings, and then below you'll see a lot of the organizational providers that have been approved to provide some of the trainings. But going back at the top, if you'll see that if you take the CCAR and maybe the intentional peer support, you pretty much have what you'll need to get your certification. You'll have most of your CEUs. The problem is you can get CCAR for free or pay up to $850. And intentional peer support, if you're very lucky and a member of an affiliate of Honor in Maryland, you can get a scholarship. Otherwise, if those scholarships run out, you would have to pay between $750 and $900 to get one of those two trainings that will give you most of your CEUs. I think a lot of times people just take the trainings that are free or the ones that will get them the most CEUs and maybe stop then until it's time to recertify. But there's so many other trainings, some good, some bad, and it's been my experience that not all trainers with our certification board, how can I say this nicely? Maybe they're misinformed about what peer support actually is. So this is why we feel that mental health certification and mental health support in Maryland is kind of falling by the wayside and needs to be addressed. And I will hand it over to Tony or Joe. Who is next?
I think it's me. I think it's me.
Is that Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, Joe, you're on. Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay. Thank you, Carolyn. I am sort of new to peer support. Well, actually, I'm not new to peer support. I work as a peer, and then I found out later on that you needed to get certification to be a peer worker, and it was not until this training with y'all that I'm kind of reluctant. I'm thinking about waiting or something because to take it because just seeing as the addiction board is more involved, and there's not enough mental health side to this. But I wrote a little something as far as the vision of what our group is kind of have in mind, and I think that maybe Tony or Carolyn could maybe add something to it if I left something out, because like I said, I'm fairly new in the peer movement. But what I wrote was the consumer survivor ex-patient movement has always envisioned a system where peers help other peers in their recovery. Now the state of Maryland needs a certification system to better support the role of the peer. We can accomplish this by being involved in the process. Nothing about us without us. and I'll send it over to Tony.
Okay.
Okay.
We talked about the problem. Joe just talked about the vision, and I'm going to talk about the proposition and/or/slash resolution. But my name is Tony Wright, as you can see down at the little bottom, my name there. And I am a veteran. I've been a person with lived experiences for quite a long time. I've also worked at our home as, well, first I started as a peer specialist. Back then they were called peer counselors. And I moved up and became administrator and eventually the executive director. And I'm talking about a span of over 20 years. So I've seen several changes within the mental health community. I mean, I've seen, people with lived experiences be referred to as clients. Then I've seen it transform to members, and then also to peers. I've seen the system change in the mental health community. I've seen it change from the Mental Health Association or Mental Health Administration and now to the Behavioral Health Administration. I've seen the on our own change from drop-in center to wellness and recovery centers. And I also seen the rise of peer support and within the behavioral health community. And I've seen the rise of peer support for people with substance use disorders. I mean, when I first started, it was just mental health. And I think that's a great thing. I mean, it's something that was long overdue. Now that people with substance use disorders can now get the benefits and help that they need through peer support, and which is a powerful tool. And however, like I said, the playing field has sort of shifted. Like right now, like this is it, substance use is like this, mental health is like this. And what we're going to do, what I propose is that we make it like this. And how do we do that? So first thing we have to do is strengthen the mental health peer support in the state of Maryland. And how we do that is that we have to have a voice. We have to raise up, we have to speak up, we have to advocate. We have to express our concerns to where it matters to the decision-making population. And we also have to find interested parties to join MAB-PCB. Would they get on the board? Now these questions are from Carol, and she did a wonderful job doing that for us, for the team. And how do we get people on the board? I know there used to be a mental health representation a while back. I think Denise Camp, Daphne Klein, Mariam Yamaliski. I don't know if she's still on the board or not, but
yeah,
I think
she's the only one.
She's still on the board where it's just her. So she's the only person representing mental health. And Mariam is a wonderful person. We need somebody who brings a force, who brings, we're here, and we need to be validated just as much as any other genre that we're here to validate. And so we need to have that representation. We need to level the playing field by including some people who are strong advocates on that board, so that we can, advocate, let them know how important it is to have the true sense of behavioral health. I mean, even the title of the certification board is sort of biased in terms of where their focus is. They can definitely take addictions out of that title and make it behavioral health. Behavioral health encompasses everything. Mental health as well. It's, mental health, substance use, and co-parenting. We also want to establish another credentialing agency for the state of Maryland. Carolyn, did you want to talk about what that would entail? I was thinking, go ahead.
that was just a possibility. I was just throwing a few ideas out there, some options. Of course, that would involve money. I don't know what money is involved in getting another credentialing board in the state of Maryland. I think that and Tony can pick up where I leave off, but I know that INAPS is the International Credentialing Board. So once you have a certification through MAPCB and INAPS, you're, as I said earlier a few days ago, that holds throughout the world. I don't know how many of us seriously need an international, but that's nice. And so I thought that was just one of my ideas, was to establish another credentialing board. Why does there only have to be one, especially since it's so geared towards addiction? And I'll shut up and let you finish your part.
Thank you for chiming in. The last thing I want to talk about is there's a couple of things. We need certified peer support specialist. Originally that was the from Honor Owner Maryland. How can we get Honor Owner Maryland to have maybe be another source that can offer the CPRS training? You know, maybe they can come in, collaborate with MAPBC or MABPC, and they can collaborate with them. And if they don't want to do it separate, a separate entity, they can join together, and that way we'll be able to offer more mental health focused training as opposed to because I've seen the disparities in both. I mean, we had someone who had a mental health background who was a certified peer recovery specialist. She was working in a recovery community center, and the people that utilized the center could not empathize with her. They could not relate to her, and it was a big conflict between the two. I had to eventually transfer her to another location because that disconnect was there, and it just did not work out. And the same thing with at one point in time, we had someone who was a CPRS, and she had substance use was her focus, and she was in a mental health arena working with mental health peers, and she really did not know how to empathize because she couldn't. So, you know, even though, you know, it's all the same, like they said, it is the same. Mental health and substance use go hand in hand. I mean, when someone has a mental health condition, sometimes you self-medicate, which leads to an addiction. Or someone who has a substance use disorder for over a certain period of time can develop a mental illness or psychosis over that long-term addiction. So it goes hand in hand. But there's also differences too. And I think that we need to incorporate, I think it's very important to add the Anti-Stigma Project as one of the necessities of getting a CPRS, because they need to know, they need to learn the differences between the two, and they need to learn not to use their biased judgments, and they need to be able to relate to the whole entire behavioral whole genre, not just one side or the other. And I think that really concludes what I'm going to be talking about.
Well, thank you. Wow, that's very comprehensive and well put together. And I'm glad Tony mentioned something of your own history, your involvement, and the problem is laid out very clearly. It seems the predominance, which we had heard earlier about substance abuse, and the proposal that Joe gave the philosophy behind it. Nothing about us without us. That was very important to bring up. And that Honor Owner Maryland could play a more active role in the credentialing process. That I was, and then you also talked somewhat about getting people onto the board of the, can never remember the initials, the addiction and behavioral health board. I think I'm wondering a little bit whether you are thinking of having a committee, since that's what sort of the substance abuse, the digital divide people brought up, a committee that might carry forward, with some of the more detailed plans.
So we did think of, yes, it would definitely take a committee to, depending on which way we went. We have a few options. We can, one of my ideas was that we go back and speak to Mike Finkel, Lauren Grimes, and maybe even Elaine Carroll. Lauren and Elaine are both gone, but we're still in contact with them, to find out exactly what is this board supposed to be? Is it supposed to be half and half? Because it was already in existence when they were given the certification. Now, whether there are any conditions saying that you have to have equal representation, I could put up a list. I could pull up the board and all the people who are on the board, as well as the officers. And it's a lot of people with a whole lot of initials behind their names. Some are clinicians, which is fine and good. But so that's one thing. So is there supposed to be equal representation? And if there is, then we need strong people to get on that board. I don't know the process for that. I don't know if just anybody can join it. I don't know if you have to be voted in, or I know that we did have another person. Oh, Lauren Grimes was on the board, but she basically, she had a big job, but it was also involved. She also felt like it wasn't getting anywhere. She wasn't going to spin her wheels anymore when she had other things she needed to do. And she was also in school at the time, but she would be a strong voice. I've seen some stigma coming from that, but I carry my own stigma. I'm not stigma free. But that was one idea, and we would need a committee to decide what do we want to do. Do we want to become a training center and do more trainings that give more CEUs on the mental health side? But the problem with that is you can't force people to take a mental health training, especially if they're coming from addictions and feel like they're going to be working in addictions, and maybe they don't feel like they're really going to need that. I don't know how often people, when they recover from an addiction, truly maybe delve deep enough to find out what else is going on, because there is so much stigma. And maybe it's just what I'm seeing here in St. Mary's County. I've lived here for the past 30 some years, and I see a lot. People walk into my center, and I can see that they think, oh, this isn't the group for me. I know that some of my members would not want to be necessarily in a room full of people who are new to recovery that carry their own stigma. So it's a matter of what route we decide to take. And that would involve some conversation, a little bit of research to find out, so how much is it to become a credentialing board? Would the state of Maryland approve that? Would we have their backing? Would they give us money? And that would be the first step in that direction would be to talk to the Office of Consumer Affairs and get their perspective. The gentleman that is over that is also co-occurring. So, he gets that part of it, but he's not the head of BHA or finance. So we have a few options. And it has been a discussion we've had amongst the directors and even with Mike. So we have some ideas that we could explore, and those were a couple of them. Whether to start our own credentialing, amp
Yeah.
up our mental health training, find a way to you know, when we bring in trainings and provide them for CPRS, that costs On Our Own a lot of money. And part of being an affiliate of On Our Own, you can either get a scholarship or a reduced rate. Whereas people who are new to recovery, coming from addictions, they may not have that time and money. You know, they would have to pay full price if they couldn't get a scholarship.
Yeah.
So,
Carolyn, you know,
yeah.
when you talk about, that's a big, you know, like how they're tailored more to substance abuse or drug abuse. That's when you have to give them the statistics. And I'm just put on the chat just one out of many. From there's in SAMHSA too. What is the problem? And they tell you, if you look at this article, the percentage, they tell you right there. It's just, you know, many people who have this problem with substance abuse, they also have mental, and the statistics are there. So make sure you always give them the numbers. It's not that you feel, you feel that this is tailored, but no, it's not that you feel, it is. It is,
Okay.
you know, this is very important.
Yeah, and I was looking for some data.
Yeah.
I wanted to see CPRS job satisfaction. I wanted to see, where do you feel you're weak? Are you in a mental health clinic and you're totally a fish out of water?
Yeah.
Are you strictly, you know, because I get all the ads from the county and the health department, and most of that is for peer support in addictions.
Absolutely.
It's working for the health department, and of course you're expected to be able to address both, but you're not. That's not where your experience comes from.
Exactly.
I have a question. The financing of the trainings, where you had on your table that they were free, the CCAR was free, but the RAP and intentional peer support, you have to pay a lot of money. Who sponsors the CCAR? The state?
Okay, so that was a it went from free to $800.
Yeah.
That slide.
Yeah.
And there was a substance use. There's a substance use provider in the county that does rehab, and they got the substance use grant that was intended. The brass tacks grant was intended for the existing wellness and recovery centers, but because we were going through a change in this county, when that came out, the person that would have applied for that for us, because we couldn't apply for that substance use grant ourselves, our core service agency had to. The person was no longer there that would have done that. So they saw brass tacks, they saw substance use, and they sent it directly to that provider, or they applied for it for them. Or maybe they felt like even though maybe they didn't know enough about us to know that we have been a co-occurring center since the day we opened our doors. Again, we've always addressed both. We've always had addiction recovery meetings and mental health meetings.
So they got money from brass tacks that enabled them to provide the CCAR training for some people to be free?
No, basically they were providing, this provider got that grant, opened a recovery wellness center, and started providing the CCAR through basically a Catholic retreat center nearby. So they got a grant from them to do this, and it was open to the public, but it was mostly people in the addictions world, and some of us. And again, it was my experience in that training, it was heavy on addictions in that training itself of the participants.
Yeah.
And obviously there were people who were heavy in both and identified as such, but in that training, and when I took it, and I believe Linda took another one, it was more addictions people. And they were amping up to provide peer support, the certification and the peer support for those. And we had already been doing it, and there had already been certifications in peer support throughout the country for mental health. But On Our Own does provide, I provide RAP for free. I don't charge for RAP. In-house, mental health first aid, in-house. I even do it for the other centers so that they can, you know, meet their deliverables and provide CEUs to people who want to. And this gives me the opportunity to give the perspective of that training through the lens of somebody with a mental health background who lives day to day with people with serious labels, and to provide another outlook or other thoughts within that program, that the way it's written.
Well,
So when I
the problem is clearly stated. I'm still not clear about the avenue, but you did mention a committee, that you would need a committee to really hash out probably the options. How much of a responsibility On Our Own could take for training and coordination of the training, and some of it seems like probably would be, the standing of On Our Own across the state, so that, the people who would take the training would say, oh, this is sponsored by the statewide organization. That might give it more influence. I mean, part of it is just getting your visibility and your political standing higher, in a way.
So, yeah, and it's not just about the trainings themselves, because there's good trainings there. But the fact is, how many people go over beyond, how many people take more of those trainings than CEUs required? And what direction do they go? So it's not just the trainings, it's also the fact that, yeah, they have these trainings, but someone who was on the board told me themselves that they had been told by many people that, and this was a person, from the mental health side who had been on that board, that the vice president of that board, or the person who answers the emails and the phone, either one of them, tell people they have to start out with CCAR. Now, CCAR is a great program that can be used either way, but it was originally developed for addictions. So what does that tell you? They're steering you straight to CCAR the first time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right there, I have an issue with.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good training, but it's not, people should be able to do their own research and decide where they want to go.
Yes.
So some of it's like PR, in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
Education. The issues of recovery from mental health, they're different principles. I mean, self-determination, I don't think is emphasized as much in the substance abuse area. It tends to be more hierarchical. The structure of AA is pretty hierarchical.
Yeah.
You don't hear people going to an AA meeting and saying, well, I'm going to state my own point of view. They have to, and it seems to me that a lot of the people in the mental health recovery survivor movement we have thoughts of our own. We have, almost as if anti-authoritarianism is one of the characteristics of our movement.
Well, yeah. The psychiatric survivor movement, Dan.
Yeah, the psychiatric survivor movement. Well, that's been the most active movement. That's the branch of our movement which has really initiated most of the original contributions. I mean, peer run respites were not initiated by consumers, just by survivors. The On Our Owns were not initiated by the consumers. And all the major contributions in the mental health field, actually, Ron Manderscheid got up, I can't get him to put it in print, but he gave a talk a couple of years ago In the last 20 years, all the major initiatives in the mental health field have been promoted by the consumer survivor movement. I would say the survivor movement. Because unfortunately, for better or for worse, most consumers are pretty compliant, which means they'll go along with, what they've been told.
And again, a lot of that is inner stigma, or even, again, in my experience here in St. Mary's County, a lot, where do you come from? What education, how has this impacted your life negatively that you've lost certain opportunities?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the idea that you can actually initiate. I mean, even, we're finding our voice is what we call this program. NAMI has, they call it, I guess, in our voice, but my understanding of it is it's not really in the voice of the people that are speaking. It's a kind of a program, right? That they say, you have to follow this format, and you have to say that you have a mental illness, and that you're accepting certain limitations. We developed finding our voice as earlier than in our own voice. I think it is important whose voice it is. And as Joe said, nothing about us without us. That means that our voice has to count.
Yeah.
And we deserve an equal footing at that table.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you're on to something. I just think that it's going to take advocacy.
Yeah.
You're going to need advocates. And we're wondering whether or not part of your proposal might be to develop more advocates. Because we're willing to offer our time to further, for any of you all in this meeting who want to be advocate, who want to develop your advocacy by being trainers. As we mentioned yesterday, we would train you all to be trainers in regions or throughout the state. It doesn't matter in a way because you got online. And then the education, the public relations, the meeting at, committee meetings, you can do all those more readily.
Yeah.
If that's something you want to pursue.
Yeah.
So where do you do these trainings? What is the population? Is it anywhere and everywhere that wants you, or are you targeting areas or certain groups, or what would be the audience?
Emerging leaders, we call them.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't a number of years post recovery. There is, do you want to get up and, like Jonathan and Huck, do you want to get up and, put a video together? Do you want to give a talk? Do you want to have an impact? Do you want to, are you angry? You want to shake things up a little bit. Those are the qualifications. There's a group that came to us from Florida, and they said, we're just tired, just like you all were. We're tired of being, pushed around. And so we did that was our first online Find Your Voice. The groups in California, they were like, we want to have a voice in the new policies that are coming up. So it comes from just what you're describing. We're not being heard. I mean, that theme came through in each of your presentations.
Yeah.
One way or another, you're not being heard.
Yeah.
So that, I'd say, is a major qualification. I don't know. What do you think? Is this something that you'd want to pursue? And I'd say probably in 2 to 3 days, you'd be trainers.
It's something I'd like to look into. I mean, I'd like to know more about.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested.
If you'd like to pursue it, what's the next step? We contact you or contact your organization?
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Just tell us right now. We're here. We're at your disposal. What'd you say, Jonathan?
No, I said it sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, yeah. And different, you know, the different voices too. We want, you know, we want a variety of people, different age groups, different ethnic groups. We want different different venues, you know, speaking, video, music, just, you know, as Jonathan brought up, because you reach different audiences that way too. And there are more opportunities in a way with the online. I mean, I think ultimately, God knows, I hope we get back to meeting people in person, because that is very valuable. Count me in too. Okay, Patrice. That's all you have to do. Raise your hand.
And if you feel that something needs to be changed or added, we have that flexibility to, you will develop your own style. And
Right.
and
So Honor on a Maryland, part of all of our contracts, Tony's and Patrice's, is to get trainings from Honor on a Maryland. I'm sure that if you speak to Mike, he may, if whatever cost is involved in his training. I don't know how that works with you guys. What are you?
We develop contracts with them. We've done, for instance, I think Honor of Maryland has probably sponsored 3 or 4 emotional CPR trainings.
Right.
And he said that actually they want to sponsor 2 more. He also said, could we do a training on racial justice and racism, and we've been in the process of developing that too. I would like to, though, propose to him as an additional training, this training trainers for finding your voice.
I think one thing that would be really important, and something maybe I misunderstood you. So we can do any training we want at our centers for our folks or out and about. A good way to get more participants would be to offer CEUs and to have the trainings approved by MAPCB. And so that, we would have an audience just waiting. I didn't know if you said that you had, is ECPR, is that something that either any of these trainings that you'd be interested in
CEUs?
Having them vetted for CEUs and approved
sure.
by that board.
We've done
because that would even be more of a plug for it.
Yeah. We've done CEUs, and we're in the process of establishing evidence for the emotional CPR. The Finding Your Voice, we haven't gotten it to an evidence yet, other than the fact that we have testimonials of people that have taken it. Like in California, quite a few of the graduates went on to become leaders within the state.
Yeah.
And we could do interviews with them, and but in the interim, at face value, we have people say, this is what we need. I mean, it's practice-based evidence. I think, each of these, there's a process. It sounds like you're saying we probably would start with Mike. We go to Mike and get, his support, I don't know, financial support for it as far as validation. If Honor on Maryland says after all, they validated you all doing this, then the next step would be I'd probably NEC plus on our own of Maryland going to this board and making proposal.
Mhm.
Here's a,
I'm not saying college, you know, professionals to use. Well, yeah, they are professional, but in reference to peer certification,
Here.
that's what you know, the other, to me, that's not what I was looking for. But I was just thinking that would be a good draw,
Yeah.
and give us more, at least the ECPR, on the mental health side.
mhm. Well, it is especially helpful on the mental health side, but
Right.
it's offered to people in addiction as well. It's just that because it was developed and is mostly trained by people with, you know, lived experience in mental health recovery, um, we abide by and draw on the principles of recovery from mental health
Right.
as our first. And I mean, after all, the P of ECPR is empowerment. I mean, that's embedded right in the heart of it. And I do think that differentiates these trainings from the, you know, substance abuse trainings. They don't say, first and foremost, you have to become empowered. I don't
Right.
think. They say you need to.
Actually, I think they say you have to give up your power.
Exactly. I mean, the first step is I'm powerless.
And what we try to instill is you have power, whether you know it or not, or whether you've been told in your life you have power. You have a voice. You have power.
Yeah.
Let's find that.
Mhm.
Another big difference is that they're busy trying to get medication-assisted treatment, and I'm not opposed to it, but if that's your major emphasis, that also is disempowering. You know, I can't I don't know, adjust, adapt, heal from my addiction without having medication.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Now you're talking to a harm reduction person here. So we can have that conversation if you really want to get into it, but not on here.
Yeah. No.
But, you know, I have to go back to something you said one time, at, what is the name of that place out towards past Ellicott City, that hunt, that big place you came out and, what's the name of it? Hunt Valley or Turf Valley? Turf Valley?
Oh, yeah. Turf Valley Resort.
Right.
Yeah,
And I don't want to be talking out of school here, Dan, but you did say it before a large crowd that I think that's where it was, that you do sometimes talk to some of your the people that you see as a psychiatrist, and you you mentioned, well,
what I
you
say.
know, if you feel that a little bit of marijuana in the evening helps you sleep or relax, and so what is that?
Mhm. I'm a harm reduction person. Yeah.
I know. So you are.
Yeah, I am. You probably have seen me. You know, at breaks at conferences, I'll go out and have a cigarette, and people say, "What are you doing? Smoking a cigarette?" And I'll say, if I said to myself, "I'll never ever have a cigarette," then I'll be looking for a pack of cigarettes all the time.
Yeah.
And I picked up smoking in a fucking hospital.
That's how long ago you were in a hospital.
Yeah.
Because you can't smoke even on the grounds outside anymore, not even in your car.
I know.
But if you're in Spring Grove and you say, okay, yeah, I'll be your guinea pig for these clinical trials. The only place you can smoke in Spring Grove Hospital is in Todd's building where they do the tests with the psychiatric drugs. The only place. I can't smoke in my car driving through, but one of my members, he's happy. And when I walk in there, they're nice and they're cheerful, and it's like a way different world than any of the other buildings I've been in, and I've been in most of them.
They can smoke there, huh?
Well, the outside, But
Yeah.
my point is the staff, the security guards, everybody's nice. Not so in any of the other buildings you go to.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not saying everybody is not, but it's a good mixture of, if you hate your job, please find another one, you know?
So what steps, it sounds like there's some steps that we might take. If we're interested in offering this, we should go to Mike.
No, I'm just saying that I don't know what's involved in the training. You know, we would need to know all that. I would. I don't know who else is in, and please speak up if anybody else is interested in the training, what you think. But no, even if it's not MAPCB approved, and even if Mike doesn't pay for it, you know, I don't know what's involved. So you haven't said that, and that's a discussion for another time, I guess.
Well, what's involved is what you all just took.
Open dialogue.
Well, you just took the training. I mean, this is the training. It's to go over some of the principles of, you know, empowerment, and, you know, what are some of the aspects of gaining your voice. And then it's utilizing it in the group by the group process of coming to identify what your problems are, what your issues are, and how you would present and approach those problems. So it's a very, I'd say, experiential and action-oriented training. It's not a, you know, just theories. It's how do a group of people come together, identify their problems, and start to begin solving them. You know, clearly, I think each of you had a beginning. You can't expect within 12 hours that you're going to both learn some of the principles, identify the problems, and come up with a solution. But I'm impressed that you all, you know, identified 3 important areas, made presentations that in each of those realms captured people's attention, interest, and have some follow-up. I don't know. That's my opinion about it. As far as the training of you all to do it, you don't need a whole lot more other than, okay, if you were doing the presenting, how would you do it? You know, how would you carry it out? And we'd be your coaches. We'd say, you know, okay, here's how you know, remember to facilitate. Remember, you know, to coach people to say something personal. Remember, you know, to bring up what the problem is. You know, it's just basically coaching your trainees. You would be your own guinea pigs. You'd do it for each other. We would step back and say, okay, team 1, help, you know, and team 1 and 2, help out team 3. You know, and you might even think, since you've been together already, let's meet again in a month or 2 months. What's been the follow-up? Well, how would you present as a, you know, as a follow-up to this? How would you go to another center? Or how would you do it? You don't have to go to any place. How would you do it online and make it available, you know, as a, you know, a little online meeting to call the others together? That might be an action step. So I don't know. You're in a way entering new territory. We've only done one train the trainer before. It was in California. It was a 4-day train the trainer, but many of those people hadn't had that much exposure to the training. That was like
I did.
You had, yeah. Maria had training, but not everyone, Maria, in there had training in Finding Your Voice. I think Michelle had, but some were new to it. So for that, in that situation, we had to both teach people what it was, the outline of it, and then ask them to, you know, to train other people within the group. But you're further along now because you've had this exposure. I don't know, how about other people? Do you think this is doable? What do you all think? You want to, you should. Patrice raised her hand and said she was interested. And Jonathan seemed to be interested. And look at that. You got a companion there with you, Carolyn. Who's
Oh my
that?
gosh.
Is
Oh
that
my
a
gosh.
grand?
This is Joshua. He's
Joshua.
waiting for to
Joshua.
talk to you. He's waiting for his baby sister to be born.
Oh.
Joshua, so nice to meet you.
Oh.
And
What
they
a
can hear you.
beautiful-
Say hello.
so
Say
cute.
hello.
Hello.
Joshua. You look like grandma.
Okay. He looks like his mom, who mostly looks like her dad.
Oh, really?
Hi.
He looks adorable.
Aw.
Got enough member. So what do you think? How about the rest of you? Is this something that we could pursue?
I'm definitely interested as well.
You're interested. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested too.
And Jonathan. Okay. And you
And
guys,
okay,
guys are cheap.
Dan, this is how I see it, okay?
How do you see it?
Because
man? Okay.
the more you guys have just a piece of paper and say that, okay, I am a trainer of finding our voice. I am a trainer of emotional CPR. This is just about dialogue. I mean, we don't want it to be overwhelmed, you know?
Yeah.
Because the whole concept is to get people together, have dialogue and explore the talents of everyone and connect as a group. Everything comes, I know you have to review a little bit the PowerPoint and go over, and then we're gonna be here to support you. But that's the whole purpose, actually, for you to have this experience and to show to whoever this is what we are. We have experience in finding our voice. We are trainers. We're trainers, and you know, and it really helps. They give you power, some power, and you project that power to other people. This is how I see it. It's just dialogue, open dialogue, learn about each other, and how as a group can create something new, finding a new voice. I don't know if it makes sense what I said. Yeah.
Yes, it does. And I have a short, quick story to tell everyone that on one of the breaks, I took the opportunity to make a phone call and to a woman who runs an outpatient program affiliated with the Anne Arundel Medical Center, which is a pretty big, sprawling complex with money. They recently opened, they used to be located right below my office. They recently located to this new 16-bed hospital they opened for mental health patients, but only 2 of those beds are for people in the public mental health system. At any rate, they moved to this space beneath me 3 years ago in July, and they showed up with this huge, shiny new 10-passenger van. That passenger van has been sitting in the parking lot now for almost 3 years and has never been used. 3 times I talked to the director about somehow if we could use it together or share it some way or rent it occasionally, whatever. And she always said, I'll get back to you, I'll get back to you. Well, now they've moved, but the van is still sitting here. So on the break, I called her and I just outright said, I'd appreciate it if it turns out you're not going to be using it, if you could just donate it to us.
Yeah.
I got tired of asking about sharing or anyway. So, I mean, anyhow, I just decided, I'm just asking if it can be donated, so.
What did she say, Patrice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're not using it now because, of COVID-19 and our programs are shorter. And then I wanted to say, well, you already have 3 vans over there at that hospital and the other addictions recovery program, but I didn't say that. And she just said, well, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you. So probably nothing will happen, but I feel like I finally just asked her.
Oh, wow.
And it's just been so hard to look at that thing for 3 years,
Wow.
parked across from us in the parking lot, and it hasn't moved. They've never used it.
Did,
And we could use it.
did taking this class help you feel a little bolder?
Empowered.
Yes. Yes. I was thinking about calling our county mental health agency and asking the director or somebody there to contact her. And I decided, heck with it, I'm just calling her.
Right, right. Well, that's wonderful. What a great outcome right
Yes.
away.
Well, see,
And,
I'll keep you posted.
Patrice, that's wonderful. You know, that's
Wonderful.
I feel right now. They said, you know, tragedies or whatever, the COVID is bringing the best in people and the worst in people, right?
Yeah.
But I see that a lot of people just want to give, and if you do not ask, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's just amazing, Patrice. Thank you for sharing. That's
Right,
wonderful.
Let me mention something else. If this idea is of interest to you, I don't want to say what you might write on your evaluation, but it wouldn't hurt if you put that down on the evaluation, because
Okay.
we could then use the evaluations. People look at written evaluations, you know, a little differently than you could say it to us out loud,
Yeah.
but we're not the ones that ultimately are going to make decisions about this. It's going to be people in the state, people on our own, people, you know, they'll say, well, how did the evaluations go? So
Yeah.
we sent out these, how do they work these evaluations, Maria? You want to?
Okay, let's see. So the link that I sent you guys, I want to make sure all of you have. You just answer the questions, and at the end, you just submit it. It's through Google Docs, which
Where
is
does it
easier for
go?
me.
Where does it go when they submit it?
To me,
To you? Okay.
yeah, it goes to me, and then I
And what do
do
you
a
do with
summary for you, and then I'll send it to you.
it?
And then to whoever asks,
We
you know,
submit it on our own too, right?
and we submit it on our own, yeah, to
Yeah.
Mike, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Okay, so you have an opportunity to make your voice heard. You know, your
Yeah.
evaluations. We're not saying what to write. We're just saying
Yeah.
it can have an impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Look at them. Verbally though, how has
Yeah.
it been? What's it been for you all? What's your feeling about this? Just orally.
I thought it was very informative, and it was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
I liked it. I feel like I like that Tony and Joe and both see the issue, and we will have discussions, and maybe a little bit more than bitching and complaining at a meeting, or amongst ourselves, and to really take some action.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. Well, I respect that all three of you see it at value. And Huck and Jonathan, what do you think?
I enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot, especially because I'm fairly new to working in anything peer recovery related. Like I just got the transitional age youth position at On Our Own from being an admin. So this was very informative. I'm very glad that I was able to be a part of it.
Well, you picked it up quickly too, since you're so being so new. How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. Oh, just starting out. That's great. May not feel that way. I remember when I was 26, I was like, shit, why haven't I done this, that, and the other thing? But
I feel that way. I feel
early,
that way so much.
It's early in the process.
We just started our new pilot program, youth ECPR, just addressed to ECPR.
Yeah.
I will let you know when they're training.
And Jonathan, how was this for you?
Oh, this is very good. I really liked the interaction and the way that, so I enjoyed the learning that we did because it was through discussion, and I enjoyed that type of learning rather than sitting down and watching a PowerPoint. Cause I'm like, I could read on my own.
Okay.
So I like the way that we were able to learn through discussion and all kind of get each other's point of view. So this is very important and impactful, and I think I definitely have some things that I could take away and use while working it on our own.
That's
so thank
great.
you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for your interaction. And it's helpful to have that validated because, a lot of trainings and presentations, they think, oh, we have to do PowerPoint. Oh, we have to impart, these objectives and, you know, all this. The process to me is what you really want to impart to people, how to enter into a process. Because ultimately, it's like the difference between learning all the facts of history versus understanding sort of how the flow occurs and how you can become a part of it. It's great. Maria, I think this is a great group.
I think so too. I learned a lot from all of you.
Yeah.
You know, Karen, when you said that your daughter, the suicide and how she passed away, and
Sadly, when I heard that.
Tony, you are a veteran, and Joe, you know, I love the part that you said about nothing about us without us. Linda, you know, your presence is amazing to me. This is, to me, so important, just to connect with people and to hear other people, to get to know people, how the people are. Right now, we're so much in need of this type of connection, getting to know people. And thank you for being so many hours in front of a computer.
Let me just ask Linda. Linda, how was it for you?
Yeah, Linda.
She's still.
I liked it. After you've been a while in mental health or addictions, you know, once in a while you have to get charged. So this was kind of like a charging station for me.
Oh, that's so
That's very, very helpful to hear, because actually you don't have a voice if you don't have a charge.
Right.
You got to feel the charge. And I think that's another reason we emphasize the interaction. The charge, I feel, comes from each other. And that's what we, in this, and that's what we teach in emotional CPR, which is done by a similar process, by the way.
Right, I've taken it.
Yeah.
Dan, we usually take a picture of the screen, a screenshot.
Yeah.
If you don't have to be, if you don't want to, guys. But we would like to have your beautiful faces on the screen, and I will send you a copy with your certificate. How about that?
Okay.
Just make sure oh, that's beautiful, Patrice. Wonderful.
Yeah, Patrice has reappeared. Good.
Patrice,
yeah.
Can you?
And look at Tony. He's got the skyline of some city. Is that Baltimore?
My battery, it's Baltimore, downtown Baltimore. My battery ran out on my iPad, so I had to switch over to my phone.
Okay.
And I forgot I had
I can't see Fells Point though, so I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, it's the Inner Harbor.
I know.
Okay.
My mother helped stop the highway going through Fells Point, and there's a Lucretia Fisher little what is it called? Welcoming center there.
The Fells Point is beautiful. It reminds me of Annapolis.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Ready? Patrice, can you bring forward a little bit? Just a little bit, Patrice, so I can see your beautiful face. That's wonderful. Okay, wonderful. Okay, let me make sure I have everybody. Dan, look at me. Look at us.
What buttons do you push on your computer?
Command Shift 3.
Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Wonderful. I will send you a copy with your certificate.
You guys were great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I feel And so were you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, remember, Huck, you're just at the beginning. And Jonathan, too. You're just starting out. You got
I'm excited.
Plenty of years. I'm 76 and I'm not quitting. And I just wish I'd known when I was 26 what maybe you guys have already started to grasp. So you got a leg up.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you were a big help. So I appreciate you so much. Dan and Maria, thank you so much for hosting this.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you for being
welcome.
here.
Very welcome.
All of you were wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank
and I want to see more of Jonathan's videos.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you could send one to us, Jonathan.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could do that. I have a few more that I've been working on.
I'll bet you do. I think they're great. I love your style. I love that,
Mm-hmm.
integrating the music with the
Yeah.
sort of the conversational approach. Really good.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
It was
you.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Bye.
very
Have a good weekend.
Yes, you all too.
Bye. Bye, Maria.
Wait, Tony's
Bye,
disappearing.
Caroline. Thank you. Bye, Linda. Oh, how wonderful. Bye, Tony. You take care.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I don't know how to.
Okay, let's see. Pakistan.
Well, Maria,
Okay, that's it. Yes, you and I. We have let's see.
we did a good job.
Yeah.
It's more, the more and more I do this, the more I do this with either eCPR or Finding Your Voice, the more I realize it is the conversation.
That's it. That's what I told them. Look, don't sweat it. Just get the piece of paper. You're a trainer and go from there. Come on. Oh my God.
You just have to give them the confidence that they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they'll feel a lot more confident when they realize they don't have to go through a million slides. I think we can knock it down to, probably maybe 10 slides at most. And we can work out a curriculum, a written curriculum that's much shorter, much more to the point. I mean, it's interesting when I think back on, how much more detail the original had.
Yeah.
That's what we start with. We started with emotional CPR that way too, with more detail, and then we condense it. And the identification of issues and the formulation of their presentation, that's the heart of it.
Oh yeah. That's the heart of it. Yeah.
Because when you think about it, in session 2, we started the identification right away.
Yeah.
Which was, something you brought up was, let's just attend to the group right away there in session 2. So we really only had session 1 as a presenting. So the first 3 hours we could think of, I mean, maybe it would, they say 10 hours for advocacy. Maybe we just stick with the 12 hours for now. They got it all in though. They fit it all in.
Are they wonderful? I really appreciate people like this. And it makes me feel that I'm doing the right thing, myself.
Yeah.
And oh my God, thank God that I have this connection with people and so wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't care whether SAMHSA, sees it as, their priority or not. They have funded us.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, they funded us. And if we slip this in wherever we can, so much the better. And if we can show that, I mean, in the new grant, it's not a priority of the new grant, but if we can show that it's helping people's, recovery and helping organizations. It was great when Linda said her battery was recharged.
Yeah, that was so fun.
And I just love Jonathan. I think he's got a wonderful style, and Huck, the two of them, and they teamed up. I think they're very interesting compliments with each other there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But we were lucky; we had experienced people. I mean,
I know.
We knew people, but the rest were experienced people.
Yeah.
And they knew each other. That was helpful too. I mean, just thinking through, how might we do this for other states?
Right.
They're like.
So I think if you talk to Mike. To get them again and then one more, and then you and I can get together to see, okay, how are we gonna just in one session.
I think we condense the slides, condense the the curriculum, the agendas, or whatever you want to call it. And, just have a simple session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4. And just show, the progression. I mean, I think it was interesting, like in the presentation, the personal was very important, very helpful. And I
Yes.
think they got that. The presentation of the problem was important.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The vision was important.
And
And
the solution.
their
Yeah.
solution. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are they? And and the one, Carolyn, the curriculum, not that, the peer support specialist certificate.
Yeah.
It was not. What kind of trainings do they want included in those?
Well,
balance the two.
yeah, what I thought at the end was they were saying, and I liked that she kept saying emotional CPR. That was
Yeah.
that was a great, we didn't even have to get
We didn't
them.
have to impose it.
Yeah. What I heard her saying is, what I understood of it is that just get the trainings out there.
Yeah.
Get the trainings out there, and it's offering a menu of choices.
Yeah. A menu of choices. Yeah.
Get them validated by the the board, and I think if we present it to their board as On Our Own of Maryland and NEC together are proposing these trainings for
And to give them CEUs to peers.
CEUs.
That counts through, towards their, their, I don't know, do they have to renewal the certification or something?
Yeah, they do. So the plan is, I would say plan are these steps.
Yeah.
Get the written evaluations.
Yeah.
Share them with Mike.
Yeah.
Share with Mike. Propose to Mike a follow-up, train the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And also, we cannot provide CEUs in itself. The organization needs to provide the CEUs.
right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they may ask us for objectives or,
Oh, but yeah.
sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
CEUs, CEUs for fine air voice and eCPR. And another job is condensation. Condense
Condense.
slides and what we call it, agenda.
Agenda, yeah.
And the heart of it is personal story, the statement of problem.
Yeah.
Probably the best was Tony, Joe, and Carolyn, because they divided it up that way.
Yeah.
They did the statement of the problem. Tony did that. Joe did the vision. I mean, it was with a phrase. And Carolyn did here proposals. Statement of problem. Vision and resolution.
Yeah.
I like that Linda and Patrice wanted to have a meeting.
Yeah.
They set up a meeting time. I was sorry the other two didn't, because it is very helpful and important to set up a meeting time.
Set up a meeting to follow up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good job.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so I guess we're gonna get into
Your voice has got new life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know.
New life. I guess it's more important than ever in a climate where you're getting clobbered by the substance abuse people. It really is self-determination, I think, is the key difference between the two. It's helpful to identify, why do we need the voice of people lived experience?
Yeah.
It's like night and day difference.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
substance abuse area is all around. It's compliance and giving up your power.
Dan, what time is the meeting? It's right now, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. See you at that meeting.
Okay, see you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Good job.
Thank you, Dan.